Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Thank you for listening to the Sales for the Nigerian Wedding Industry podcast. I'm your host, Abuja based event and wedding photographer Tavishima Ayede. Today, I was supposed to continue on where we left off from yesterday on professionalism, but I had an interaction with one of the podcast listeners yesterday. I was chatting with one of the podcast listeners about a deal that he was working on that didn't pull through. And he made a casual comment, something that I've said a couple of times on the podcast, something about no one wants to be sold anyway. And we carried on the conversation. And it just got me thinking that on the podcast, there are a couple of things that I say over and over again without tying them into the larger context of why I say these things, and perhaps this is one of these things that I need to talk about in the fuller context. What I mean when I say that nobody wants to be sold. Now, sometimes, well, not just this listener of the podcast, but I've noticed that some other people, anyway, when they have interactions with potential customers and they realize that people don't want to be sold, sometimes we fall into a fatalistic trap and we just say that, well, you know what, if they're serious, they will buy. I'm not going to put up with this. Just to wash your hands off the whole situation and then let things be because no one wants to be sold. And unfortunately, that is not the case. That is not the outcome that folks like me would hope for when we say things like no one wants to be sold. Because the other half of the statement, I can't remember who started saying it, but it's something that is popular in sales circles. The other half of the statement is that everybody wants to buy. So the full statement is nobody wants to be sold, but everybody wants to buy. So let me repeat that again. No one wants to be sold, but everybody wants to buy. So what that means is that even though people have a deep-seated need, they do not want to be hassled. So let's say you sell baby stuff, baby diapers and things like that, and someone walks into your store. You approach them, they say, oh, no, thank you, I'm just looking. The reason why they're saying that is because they do not want to be hassled. But the truth is, they want to buy and they have a need, which is why they are there in the diaper section. So they're obviously looking for something. They just want to be hassled, and they just don't want to be hassled or to be bothered. So it's incumbent on us, because we are the professionals, to take the initiative and find the best ways of initiating these conversations that move things along. And that's the reason why I have this podcast and I keep on putting out material that I do on LinkedIn and on the Instagram handle, the sales conversation handles on Instagram. So so let's just bear in mind that that's the other half of the statement. Nobody wants to be sold, but everybody wants to buy. That's the reason why they are sliding into your DM. That's the reason why they gave you that phone call. That's the reason why they're chatting you up on WhatsApp. It's because there is some need that is there. Now, what we have to do is to find the best ways of initiating the conversation or continuing the conversation rather, and asking questions to qualify, to move things along, just to find out if there's a problem, the nature of the problem, and whether you guys are a fit for each other. So I'm a wedding photographer, for instance. If someone reaches out and we're doing that chit chat or emailing back and forth, my job is to ask the right questions to find out when is it that they're getting married. Is wedding photography a kind of a priority for them? What is the kind of wedding photography that they're looking for? Is it something that I can provide at the price range that they are looking for? So it's my point. It is my job to ask those kinds of questions and move the process along. So I shouldn't just throw up my arms and say, well, after all, nobody wants to be sold. The corollary to that statement is that everybody wants to buy. So it is my job to continue the conversation along, using the right questioning framework so that we can make both our brides and grooms, our potential customers, and us, we wedding vendors and event industry professionals, so that everyone is so everyone is happy at the end of the day. Now, be that as it may, even though everybody has a need, one thing that we also have to take on board, realistically speaking, is that inaction is an option for the for our potential customers. What does that mean? Even though the person is in the aisle at your baby diaper shop and there is a need, inaction is also one of those options. The person can choose, I'm not going to buy today and let me walk out the store. The same thing with the wedding photography. The person can choose to do nothing about it and maybe delay, and by default, maybe somebody would, by default, the problem gets solved somehow about wedding photography. So we just have to realize that those are one of those options. So the reason why I've hopped on the microphone today is just to reinterpret that statement in the larger context, in the much more accurate context in which I received it, so that hopefully I do not lead future people astray. So nobody wants to be sold, nobody wants to be hassled, but everybody wants to buy because everybody has a need. But even though everybody has a need, we do that human thing of procrastinating and kicking the ball down the road. So it is possible that people will do that whenever they have the opportunity to do so. You just take the initiative and focus on things from your own end. Put in practice all the things we talk about here on the podcast for qualification frameworks, frameworks for asking questions, what else? Not just here on this podcast, but whatever other podcasts or learning material that you're looking at, books, CDs, YouTube videos, or whatever. Yours is to do the best and find out ways of seizing the initiative in the conversation, so that you can weed out the serious people from the unserious people, weed out people that you vibe with, people that you click with, people that you can work with, and weed out people who have problems that you cannot solve. So if you are that high-end wedding planner, your job is to ask questions and separate the wheat from the chaff, so that if you're talking to 150k people, you can either exit the conversation or refer them to other wedding planners who you know, or maybe your students who are starting out, who are okay with starting on that 150k job. So that's the whole point of why I'm on the mic, basically, today. So let's not get the spirit of that assertion wrong. The spirit of that assertion wrong. So everybody wants to buy, even though they might be seeming flaky or hesitant or whatever. It's just because they don't like being sold. But have it at the back of your mind, they might decide to do nothing. Either way, don't take it personal. Keep the initiative up on your end and keep doing what it is that you do. Rejection is a normal part of the business. It's not something we should take personally. It's just a business reality. It is what it is. So when somebody says no, or somebody's being flaky or being ghosty or delaying on decision, it has absolutely nothing to do with you. So if someone kicks the ball down the road and they don't engage with me for getting wedding photography services, it has nothing to do with me. I mean, to the extent that the conversation didn't fall down because I was sloppy in moving things along. Apart from that, it has very little to do with me. So let's not take these things personal. It's just part of the reality of doing business. And most importantly, please take this in mind, because I meet people who start off in wedding photography and after 3 years they say, this market is not moving, I'm going to do something else. This is a reality that you are going to face in no matter what industry that you are involved in. So it's not just the peculiarity of the wedding and the event space. So don't say I'm frustrated of being a wedding planner, so let me go and be involved in the export of groundnuts to Egypt or whatever. You're still going to meet the same thing. You're still going to meet people who will be non-committal, people who are fudging, people who are ghosting, and people who are kicking the can further down the road. It's just the reality of business. So let's not be discouraged. Let's suck it up. Let's be big boys and big girls, and let's keep doing our thing. So we're close on the 10-minute mark, so I'll wrap it up here. And tomorrow we will continue with our discussions on professionalism. I believe I was going to look into a few things that are out there, some options and some models that are being put forward about what a professionalized wedding industry could look at. We have a few organizations that we can look at in America, and I think two in Nigeria that we can look at. One of them is going to be the WIPA. So apart from the WIPA that I can confirm that is going on strong and alive and well, the other two organizations we're going to look at, I can't give you any verifiable information as to whether those things are up and running and really popping or not. So my job is just to put that out there, and you guys to take it on board and then do your own research, and we'll all grow together as wedding event professionals. So thank you very much for listening to the Sales for the Nigerian Wedding Industry podcast. I'm your host, Abuja-based event and wedding photographer, Tavishima Ayede. I will catch you guys on the next recording.